Hello, and welcome to the Tuning In podcast. I'm Dana Evans, your inner voice and emotional support coach. In this podcast, we explore the deep wisdom that lives in our bodies, emotions, and inner voice. Together, we'll shed the layers that no longer serve us, creating space to tap into the flow of life and experience true ease. So, are you ready to join me? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. Today, we are going to talk about settling into stillness. I've talked about stillness and space a lot on this podcast, but after I started talking about the winter indulgence program a couple of weeks ago, I had a reckoning with myself, which has taken me on my own winter indulgence journey to really process and integrate my relationship to stillness and space and how it has shifted, particularly since moving to Santa Fe. So I'm going to share with you all about how that came to be, where I'm at now. Let's talk about it, because the thing is, I've been advocating for this forever. It's like one of my core brand messages, one of the things I work with my clients with the most. And also, we're all susceptible to falling into a life of busyness and distraction and not wanting to have stillness or not wanting to go in for whatever reason. Once you're aware of that, you can start to shift it and you can start to have a different relationship with it and a different relationship with how you see yourself. So this stems back to the week of Thanksgiving. I went to see my acupuncturist, and I see her a couple times a month. And in that, I had told her a little bit about my winter indulgence program and how I was so excited to help people come back to stillness and resist the busyness of the season. But what was funny is, as I was talking to her about it, I had this very shocking realization that I had moved really far away from my own stillness and spacious practices and experience in my life. I don't quite have the words to tell you guys how shocking this was. It felt like massive cognitive dissonance. I couldn't fathom it because the reality, the 3D world that I was experiencing was literally showing me through weeks of me talking to her whenever I went to see her, showing me that I am busy. My adrenals are tired. I've been doing a lot and being very distracted, and it's gotten worse and worse. Honestly, it's felt like my distraction is really extreme right now, though it's already getting better since what I've begun doing, which I'm going to share with you. And it's just felt like I've been a little fragmented. So as I was telling her this, it really dawned on me that, wow, I think I need to look at this within myself. Before I take anyone through a program about it, I need to reflect on it on my own, because it's easy to talk about, but to live it is a totally different thing. And I need to make sure I'm living anything that I teach. So that's why we have not done anything with the program. And this session with acupuncturist really shed light on something that I thought I was good at. I have been good at it in the past, and I will be good at it in the future, but in the present, it's not something that I'm accessing on a regular basis. Once I realized that in this session, I have to tell you, my system was mad, confused, shocked. I'd been running a story about myself and then living a different story. The funny thing is, I think this happens a lot of times with people in the inverse. So you might be having this story in your head like, I'm bad, I'm not good at things, I'm lazy. You're beating yourself up. And then people from the outside look in and say, what are you saying? Like, look at all the beautiful things you are and what you create and how good you are and how talented you are. And it's hard to reconcile those two stories. For me, the story was, I'm so good at stillness. I'm really comfortable with spaciousness. Like, look at the work I do. Like, look at my experiences. Of course I am. And then the reflection back to me was like, but are you? And so I was needing to integrate those two stories. So really after that session, I gotta say the next day, I was mad. Like, talk about emotional clearing. It brought up some anger in my body and resistance in my mind. How could this possibly be true? So it's true. Whatever. Since then, and in that session, I actually decided to not run the winter indulgence program, as I said, and to really spend December as I wanted, exploring my relationship with stillness and space and really scaling back and not scaling up. I decided to take at least 2 weeks off, starting with Thanksgiving week. That one was actually pretty easy because it was a holiday week. John had days off, and it felt like a really lovely holiday week. However, with my new awareness, I was crazy aware all of Thanksgiving week that I couldn't slow down. I cleaned out my closet. I organized a bunch of stuff in the house. I was cooking a bunch of things. I was running a bunch of errands. It was a lot. A lot for me. Of course, remember when I share my stuff, like everything is relative. So I wanted to mention that too. In relation to a lot of the people in my life is actually a lot slower paced. Like, it's not a crazy busy life. But my own experience and allowance of the stillness in the space was not happening. So it doesn't matter if you have a really busy life or a really slow life or a really full life or a really spacious life, we can still have our own experiences of stillness and spaciousness and resistance to it, regardless of how full your life actually is. So I just want to add that caveat. I didn't have anything I had to do that week. I wasn't traveling. I don't have kids. John was going to have time off of work. I just didn't have to do anything. I didn't have any clients scheduled. I wasn't planning on doing any work projects. And yet, my system wasn't letting me slow down. The only way I knew how to slow down is through completely zoning out, watching movies or shows. So I either would be super busy doing things and thinking things, or get myself so tired from spinning that I'd crash. I had no energy to do anything else except lie in bed, lie on the couch, and watch a show. And I tell you this all the time, I'm an advocate for that. But in my new awareness, I realized that I didn't have an in-between. I was either on or off. I was either had energy and was burning through it, or I was so exhausted I had no energy, and it was too extreme. So that week, I witnessed it through my new lens, and I got to start to say, okay, this doesn't feel sustainable. What am I going to do to find an in-between? Like, what actually nourishes me? And I think that's part of why my mind was angry when I first was like, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. I'm going to completely look at my relationship with rest, because my mind was like, well, I don't want to spend 2 weeks just watching TV. And so right away, it shows you like, oh, I've lost touch with my own nourishment the last few months. And what nourishes and soothes and settles me? What is restorative? That's different than watching a show or movie on the couch all day, which can be relaxing. It might not always be restorative. So I decided to go on the hunt for what would restore me. So week 2, I actually went to my parents' house. This was just last week. I'm in this right now. I am sharing this. I am not at a completion. I haven't resolved this. I'm still in it. I'm sharing it while it's happening. Usually when I go to my parents' house, it's a really relaxing time. It's a really fun time. We laugh, we do fun, playful things, and I sleep really well. Something was up this week with the energy. My parents and I were freaking chaotic, and it was so crazy to watch because they were aware of it and I was aware of it. It's like we all got together. We were all feeling a little chaotic on our own, a little distracted, a little too busy. And then we got together and it amplified everything. So all of a sudden, I'm literally set the intention when I got to my parents' house. I was like, my intention here is to spend more time alone, slow down, and really experience some genuine stillness. And that first day, it was like, none of that happened. I was so busy. We were so engaged. I think of that week with my parents. It was like a one long errand. Like we did so many things. I ran so many errands. I did so much driving. It was exhausting. But good things did come of that. And of course, it was fun, but it was way more than I had intended on doing. So on the second day I was there, I woke up really early and did some things in the morning, got up, did my oil pulling, went downstairs to go engage, and my mom was downstairs on the couch with Pumpkin, their cat, on her lap, doing a meditation. And I watched them for a minute, and I was like, should I go down? I don't want to disturb them. And then I had this little ping that was like, hey, Dana, we can meditate too. Ding, ding, ding. Duh. Captain freaking obvious. All this time, I'm thinking, how am I going to slow down? What is my relationship to stillness? I completely forgot about my own practice of meditation, which I have carried for probably 10 years. A semi-regular practice of meditation. Once we moved here, I completely abandoned it and frankly forgot about it. I've talked about meditation versus emotional clearing, and I went down this whole route, of course, teaching and doing all the emotional clearing. But in the episode where I talk about the two of them, I very clearly state they both have value and we need them for different things. And meditation, in particular, is supportive for the mind. My mind has been so busy and distracted and chaotic that it couldn't even remember how much it loves meditation. So that day, I went upstairs. I went to open my regular morning meditation guided audio that I've used before. I use the app Insight Timer. I love it. I think it's a great one. And for the record, I have been doing meditations at night to fall asleep very regularly. But for me, using a meditation to fall asleep is a very different practice than using it in the morning to set the tone for the day. So I just forgot about morning meditation. Went to open my regular one and had this nudge inside of me that was like, we need something different. We don't want the same one that you did 2 years ago, right? Because I'm in a very different place, literally and energetically, than I was 2 years ago. So it was interesting that I went to go back to my old meditation, but my body was like, no, we want something different. There's something else for us. So I did a little search and found one woman who I really love. And it was all about anchoring into your center. And I was like, great, this sounds good. It was a 20-minute guided audio. Put my headphones in, put the meditation on. Oh boy, big exhale. Oh, I started crying because it was such a big relief to be in quiet, to be in stillness, to settle and direct my mental energy for the first time in months. And that release of the tears was such a gift because it really showed me how much my body's been missing this piece of my day. How desperate it was for that to help redirect, because what I was doing, which we all can get caught in this trap, is I was trying to do my way into stillness. I'm like, what practices do I need to do? What do I do? What do I do? It's like my mind was so active and busy that it forgot to just set the bags down for a minute and breathe. And once I did that in the meditation, I got this massive release. Through that, sitting in stillness, breathing, meditating, witnessing my thoughts and the busyness of my mind in that moment, which continued. I did a meditation every single day with my parents, and I've continued it since I got home. I've been doing tapping after meditation and then a few stretches, right? It's beautiful how we can stack practices that are beneficial. Once I'm in meditation, I naturally want to do the other things. But through that, I was really able to see how my own inner chaos and buzzing, my inability to be still and quiet, was showing up in my external world. Things weren't grounded. I felt like I couldn't trust myself at all. I was having a horrible time making decisions. Actually, I'm still dealing with that to an extent. I really cleared a lot of that yesterday. So I'm feeling a lot more clear on decisions today. But it was this really extreme symptom. So just so you know, if you're feeling this extreme inability to make decisions and you feel like you can't trust yourself, it could be an indicator that you need to go inward, right? To be more quiet. Because I was looking outward for the answers that needed to be found inside. And again, like I was trying to decide on these ski clothes. So last year I got ski clothes secondhand at a thrift store for my first season of skiing, and they worked fine, but I donated them this year to a coat drive for local teens. And I was like, I'm ready for my big girl ski clothes because I know how to ski now and I want a ski outfit. I want to look cute. You know what? I do. So I ordered some things from this website. I mean, I'm literally looking at the pile right now. I have probably like $2,000 of ski clothes on the floor of my office that I'm going to return. I was trying things on and trying and spinning. I was showing John, I'm like, well, I could have this combo or I could have this combo or this, but maybe I need this in a smaller size and this color. And I took a video and I sent it to my friend and then I sent it to my sister-in-law and then I sent it to my mom. And I was so stuck. I'm like, I can't make this decision. And it felt like a life or death decision. It felt so impossible to make, like the stakes were so high, and they're not. And I was incapable. I'm like, I can't trust myself. I don't know what's right. It was exhausting. And that, as I've spent the last 10 days in meditation, in acupuncture, slowing down, even in the busyness, still slowing down, I realized how much little things like that were exhausting me even more. You know, when you're already feeling chaotic, when you're already feeling distracted, when you already feel like you can't trust yourself, and then you add decisions to that, it feels impossible. So yesterday, I actually, after an acupuncture session, I was like, oh, I know what to do. And so this morning, I set the return for all of the items except 2. And I'm like, and it's done. And I feel so relaxed about it now. But just sharing that with you to show you that the problem for me wasn't making a decision. That was a symptom, right? The problem was not having any time to be in my own inner world, not slowing down, not being with myself in silence. That's what I've always called meditation, is sitting with yourself in silence. That's meditation. And if you don't have that, you lose access to your inner voice. Your thoughts aren't able to settle, to land. When everything's uprooted that way, you're looking outside constantly for the answer. And it doesn't live there, right? It lives inside. No one can tell me what the right ski outfit is for me. I mean, John was so over this. He's like, I am so sick of hearing, no, I don't care. They all look fine. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't. But when I was in that state, it did. And it mattered more than anything because I needed to make a decision to feel calm. But what I actually needed to do was feel calm to make a decision. So as I'm going through this, just because I started meditating, obviously it doesn't mean it fixed everything, right? These moments that I'm having in the morning are so deeply peaceful and grounding. But then the day carries on. And as the day carries on, momentum builds. So remember, we can have multiple check-in points, and I'm going to share a couple of things that I'm also doing to help with that in a minute. But remember, it's we can set the tone in the morning, which I think is really powerful. I was pairing a guided meditation with tapping and adding stretching and then starting my day. That felt really good. But as the momentum of the day builds, I found that I have to reconnect. And if I don't, which I didn't with my parents, then you still end up the day panting because the day caught up with you. So for me, there's a few things that I have started doing and being really conscious of that also help me stay grounded. Because if I like the grounded, open, peaceful, connected, clear feeling that I feel after meditation, I need to ask myself how I can maintain that during the day or what I can use as touch points to bring me back to that. First and foremost, for me, I noticed that caffeine is really destabilizing me right now. And I've probably talked about this recently. I've known for a couple months. My body has told me that it needs a break from caffeine, and I have not given it to it. In fact, I have increased my caffeine intake, okay? And worse than that, I've been having it on an empty stomach, and talk about destabilizing. But once I started doing the meditation, I just knew. I was like, I don't want to completely offset this calm, peaceful, clear energy. And I know if right after meditation I go and have a cup of black coffee without food, it is going to send me out of alignment. So I've started scaling back on my coffee. I'm going to remove it. I got a really cool coffee replacement called, I'll link it in the show notes. It's made of mesquite, which is apparently some wood in South America. I also love Dandy Blend. I think it's an amazing product, but I love trying new things. So I will report back and tell you if I like it or not. The other thing I got is saffron latte. So I'm going to be having saffron latte. That's from a company called The Fullest. Listen, this shit is so overpriced. I don't know if it's overpriced, but it costs quite a bit. I wouldn't probably willingly buy it, but you can use it for your HSA, your health savings account, which we have through our insurance. So you can buy this saffron latte for it because it's highly studied, and saffron is correlated with reducing depression, reducing anxiety, increasing mood. So apparently it's a health supplement. So I use my HSA to purchase that. So I'll be drinking that and the coffee replacement, and I'll report back to see how that goes. So cutting back on coffee really helps with keeping my energy stable and grounded. Eating enough food. So for me personally, this is a big one. I would start the day, not have food, and have caffeine, which would destabilize me. And then I'd be really hungry, too hungry, not have energy to make something. So I'd just eat like a piece of toast, not grounding. So I'm working on making more nourishing breakfast, which is so hard for me. I gotta tell you, I don't eat eggs. I don't like them. And so breakfast is like this constant challenge. I also prefer a savory breakfast to a sweet breakfast. Anyway, I'm just working on this. So I did make Thanksgiving week. I was making pumpkin maple oatmeal in the morning, and that was really hitting the spot. So I was using pumpkin puree, maple syrup, oats, and then putting a ton of butter and pecans on top. So that was really good. I love having like a high protein plain yogurt with like raspberry jam and some hemp seeds on there. I do love having toast and yogurt. That's like my easy go-to breakfast. So I'm working on this. I am. I think breakfast is really easy for some people. I'm just not excited about breakfast, but I know when I eat it, I really feel so much better. So much better. Breakfast is like a really good thing for me. So that's another one. And then just eating enough during the day. Also, having foods that are a little heartier in the winter are really helpful for me. So having like a good beef chili, having hearty soups, and things that really ground and nourish me, drinking bone broth, all of that has been really helpful. Not having a lot of like light, crisp salads, but having even baked salads are helpful. Staying warm. So again, I'm actually sitting on my brand new sheepskin right now. Oh my God. I've wanted one of these for about 6 years. I finally got it for my Christmas present this year. It's from this gorgeous sheep at a small farm called Five Mary's Ranch. They harvest the sheep and sell the meat, and then they also sell these beautiful sheep pelts. So that is nice and warm. I'm also wearing a wool sweater right now in my office with a heater and socks on. Like, I was finding that I was feeling cold, so I was like trying to distract myself and like, right? It's like that buzzy energy wasn't warm and anchored and grounded. Isn't it crazy? Like, we can see how the energies correlate with each other. Oh, and then my favorite thing that has been a reminder is checking in with nature. So again, this time of year is asking us to slow down. It's asking us to go inward. It's asking us to reflect. It is the darkest time of the year. It is a time to cocoon. It's a time to root down so that in the spring we can grow and blossom. If our roots don't have enough nourishment this time of year, we cannot bloom to our fullest in the spring. So if we're burned out from the summer, our adrenals are shot, And we enter into this dark season that's asking us to slow down, stay warm, be present, breathe, and really witness the year. If we don't do that, our adrenals will still be burned out. They won't replenish, and we'll enter into the spring feeling exhausted, not creative, not inspired, not excited. And it's going to be a lot harder to grow. I know this. And I also know and feel how strong the momentum is in the other direction to keep pushing through this year, to keep showing up, to keep doing. But there is a way to do that while still nourishing our roots and being deeply grounded. I don't want us to get so exhausted and sick because we can't slow down. Midway through the week with my parents, I started to feel this prickle of like, signs that I'm sick. And I'm like, this is my body saying enough. We need to slow. And so I took that as a reminder. If you don't slow yourself down, your body will slow you down. And I want to show up for my body. These contemplations, it's like, and this is something that you can ask yourself as well, is like, what actually nourishes me? For me, all of these food things are really helpful. And then what I was saying before is nature. So I like to watch nature. It is the darkest time of the year, and nature is willing to let go and go down and root down. Watch the leaves be bare on the trees. Watch the little birds eating their food or taking a little bird bath. We just got a bird bath that's heated. I call it the bird hot tub. It's not really hot. It just keeps it from freezing. Oh my God. It is so amazing watching these little birds take their baths. And then afterward, they sit in the sun to dry off. It's beautiful. That's nature doing its thing, right? The leaves falling off the trees, if you're somewhere where that happens, that's nature doing its thing. If you're not somewhere where the season changes that extremely, like think about the ocean waves, like the waves come in and then they retreat back. And then they crash in and then they retreat back. And even the cycles of the tides have high tide and low tide, right? It has the time to shine and be abundant and the time to retreat and be quiet. So even spending a couple moments watching nature be nature taps into that innate natural rhythm within you. Watch it. Watch the sunrise. Watch the sunset. Watch the clouds form. Watch snow fall from the sky. Watch the leaves waving in the wind. Breathe with that, and that immediately brings you back, or at least it does for me. And I invite you to try that as well. You can also ask, like, how can I invite more stillness into my daily life? Is it a meditation? Is it a walk where I don't have my phone and I'm not listening to anything or talking to anyone? What does it look like and what does it feel like? Like for me, I had that realization that stillness is not crashing in front of the TV, but it's the quiet moments where I stand outside with Mia while she explores the backyard. Or when I sit on my porch swing, even in the cold, and just let the sun soak through my skin. I love taking a shower without having to rush. I did that today and I was like, gosh, this is good. I realized that lately, every time I shower, I'm like, okay, I just got to get this over with. But a shower is so nourishing. And I got some new products today, some tallow body wash, some brand new shampoo and conditioner from this beautiful company that I love. And I just spent time in the shower and then I blow dried my hair and I put on this new body oil and I just thought, gosh, I don't remember the last time I showered in a slow, mindful way, right? It's also cooking without a show or YouTube running in the background. It's like I talked about last time, running fewer errands, making peace and feeling the contentment with what is versus constantly seeking more. And again, this time of year, there's this weird energy of more, right? It's like we had Black Friday, Cyber Monday, sales, buy, more. Get the most out of this year. Make the last bit of money you need to make. Finish your goals strong. Go harder as you tumble into the next year. But this time of year is like, whoa, it's actually time to slow down, to consume less, to reflect, to watch as things fall away that is no longer needed. We don't need more dopamine, more engagement, more consumption, more attention, more stimulation. It's less, it's softening, it's settling, it's time with ourselves, time with our bodies, time with our breath. I'm not there yet. This is the difference between knowing and doing, and acting on what you know. I know these things, and the more I talk about it, that's why I'm sharing this episode with you in the midst of it, the more it becomes present in my everyday. It's like a snowball. It's like, oops, the momentum's picking up again. Let me pause. Let me step outside. Let me close my phone. Let me step away from the computer. Let me go get a hug from my husband. Let me go pet the cat. What can I do to come back, even for just a moment, so the momentum doesn't take me away? The feeling for me as I am tuning in and finding my own rhythm again and can move from the stillness within, that's that anchored steadiness versus what I had been feeling and am moving away from was being like a tumbleweed being blown around in the wind. It's like so tuned into all the noise that I have no roots. The tumbleweed is literally a dried plant that is uprooted, and so it flies away in the wind. We want to have our roots firmly in the ground and nourished, not so we're rigid and brittle, but so when the wind comes, we can flow and sway, but we don't blow away, and we certainly don't break. That's the feeling to me. So this is where I'm going through right now. I'm truly settling into my own being. And I gotta share one more thing is even today, had nothing official that had to be done. But I caught myself right before this podcast. I actually canceled a walk with my friend. Granted, I didn't really feel like walking today. It's really cold out and I was feeling a little still just getting back from visiting my parents. I wasn't quite ready to go engage and chat. We chat a lot. So there was that. But what I said to her is, I said, I have a ton of things I want to get done and I'm feeling inspired and I want to do them. But then what I noticed as I was at my computer was yes, there were things I want to get done. Great. I need to pack up these items and to ship back my returns for my ski clothes. I was messaging some clients about our work that we're going to be doing in January. So there were some things, but it wasn't about the things that needed to get done. What I felt underneath was this rushed energy of I gotta hurry up. There was this subtleness of time's running out. Once I caught that, I was like, whoa, hold on. And I pulled up my list again. And I was like, what actually do I want to get done? What is necessary versus what am I saying needs to get done? Because again, I've started to feel that vibrating energy of, oh God. And it's you can't quite breathe. It's you're trying to catch your breath. And I was like, no, what needs to be done is the podcast. And after that, I'm going to make cinnamon sugar popcorn and I'm going to eat that. And then I'm going to pack up these ski clothes and then I'm going to make a delicious dinner. I'm not going to toil on my computer, which is what I was doing before, feeling like I needed to be doing something, but not getting a lot done because it was operating from rush, not clarity. And so again, I brought myself back. So this is what you're going to find is this pulsation of out of stuck in the collective energy of the busyness, the rush, the trying to catch your breath, the trying to keep up. And then you pause and it's oh no, come on back. And then we have the nourishing roots and the grounded clarity. And we can still act from that. I'm not saying turn off for the whole rest of the year, but it's doing more the minimum viable output. What is the minimum that needs to be done to continue operating and running as is necessary? And what can you release? What can you shed? What can you release so that you can make space for the stillness and for something else aligned to show up, to guide you in this really beautiful inward time? I have one other metaphor for you. Next week, we'll be firmly in winter. When I think about women and our menstrual cycles, we have the luteal phase, the ovulation phase, the follicular phase, and the menstrual phase. So when we're actually menstruating, essentially there's spring, summer, fall, winter. And this crazy thing is in the winter, when you're bleeding, that's when you shed the energies of the last month and literal things from your body from the last month. If we were to skip our bleed, we would be jumping right into the next spring. And think about that for a second. Think about that in nature. Think about that in your own body. If I skip winter, that means I go from fall to spring. What am I missing out on if I skip winter? So instead of looking at winter as like, ugh, I don't feel like slowing down. It's dark, it's cold. I just want to be creative and inspired, and I don't have ideas, and I want to push through, and I want to do more, but I don't have as much energy, but I wish I did. Instead, ask yourself, if we skip winter, what are we actually missing out on? I know that for as many times as in the past as I had wished that I didn't have my period, I know deep down how valuable my period is and how much I love that I get to bleed and release the previous month. I don't want to skip my period. It's part of my overall well-being and my health. And for each of us too, so is winter. And so can we lean into the calling of the season? Can we all explore our relationship with stillness and space? It's almost like, if you collect water from the ocean, there's all the sand floating around, and then as it settles, the sand floats to the bottom. That's what we're trying to do with ourselves. So by nourishing our roots, that rooted energy can pull all of the fluttery, busy thinking mind, all of that collective chaotic energy, and it can go and pull it down and in and ground us and anchor us. We need the darkness to utilize the light in a way that actually inspires us and doesn't burn us out. See, light can inspire and grow, but it can also burn. When we have the darkness, it creates that resilience so that the light can be our fuel and not something that dries us out and burns us down. So that's what I'm doing this month, probably into January, let's be honest. And I'd love for you to join me just through conversation on this podcast, through the emails on the Vitamin D newsletter. I'll keep sharing those, but my sharing will be a little less consistent and a little more in flow with when conversation comes through. So stay tuned. I know it takes effort to not be pulled into the momentum of the collective energy. So we're going to do it together, and we're going to remember that nature can show us the way. We'll witness how we shift when we choose to shift our pace. Thank you as always for joining, and I will catch you next time on the Tuning In podcast. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Tuning In podcast. If you loved this episode, please rate and review it or share it with a friend. If you want to go deeper into the realm of emotions and learn the language of your body, check out my audio course, Emotions Decoded, at alignful.com/audio. As always, you can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans. See you next week.